This is 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson. Before we get going here, let me just read into the records this letter to give you a sense of who our guest is. The news that one of the world's greatest collections of calypso vinyl records of Trinidad and Tobago was donated to a foreign institution comes at a blow to the dignity of our society. Its owner, George Maharaj, born here, a southerner currently resident in Canada, has collected our music from sources worldwide to provide a significant part of our musical cultural history. Over several years, his offer to us for sale has not materialized. The collection consists of calypso, soca, gospelypso, chutney, parang, big band, rapso, pan, folk song, and more in standard forms as well as memorabilia. I recall chatting with his deceased father some years ago, who proudly indicated his understanding of George's passion for calypso. His attempts to part with privately maintaining the collection include his desire to make it a national heritage possession. I believe our country's consciousness of conservation, preservation, protection, posterity of cultural heritage is minimal. The institutions and organizations engaged in consequent activities are largely muted. Political rhetoric does not include these concepts as much as it is repetitive with energy, oil, and gas. The public has not grown to know the effectiveness of preserving our cultural heritage. While our music produces diversity in linkages and fusions, the public has not been educated to acknowledge the historic sources of the roots of our music. Many of our minds are still at the level where preservation means things are hidden, shut away, and inaccessible. Many who have heritage collections are unaware what could be done with them if there's a change in their life status. Museums today, particularly those in countries once colonized, are trying to enable their societies to validate national identities. They are engaged in an anthropological approach to give voice to people whose lives resonate in select tangible and intangible cultural effects. Preservation of heritage means a decolonization of a society of, for example, as seen in Africa, Europe, and Latin America. Museu de Reggae Maranhão in Sao Luís, Brazil, a city of 1 million people established by Bob Marley Museum because of their love for reggae. On the whole, museums are intent in refurbishing their collective image to open their walls and become malls as they attempt to constitute the principles which make culture human and affirm a national identity. 2 years ago, I had the vision of the establishment of a museum to contain all our music of ethnic and genre origin. It was prompted by the marvelous funeral tribute to the mighty shadow, Winston M. Bailey, in Queen's Park, Savannah, where familial feelings were generated. My thought arose from the joyful mixes, merges of people and sounds, and rested on his lyrics in Dingolay. Another prompt was a call from George that he was considering selling his collection to a foreign country. I was flabbergasted and sought to do something. From the fixed on the idea that community participation is the answer, I welcomed a small group of people who agreed with turning the idea into a project. We believe the need is imminent for establishment of a national musical museum, which has a role with a difference to unite communities and promote ideals of democracy. We are using advocacy as the first leg of the journey. We see it as bringing connectedness and giving opportunity to reboot knowledge of museum effectiveness. Our group advocates the idea of a national museum to contain all historical heritage in our country. We seek opportunities to deliver this message, which enables public option to either endorse, modify ongoing strategies and methods, or embrace sustainable solutions which can provide tools to vitalize community collaboration and sustenance and to generate economic effects. We have lost an amazing collection that should have been our national birthright and the birthright of the young people of this nation. The artists of today, the creatives, the intellectuals, the activists, every citizen should have an understanding of their roots, their culture. There are collections which exist on the brink of precarity, possibly destined to leave our shores or degrade into dust and even to be thrown away. This cannot happen ever again. In closing, I welcome with these words the help of the people who wish to assist Trinidad and Tobago to retain our dignity. I thank you. It is signed by Dr. Yvonne Bob Smith. She says in this case, she's a librarian and an educator. She's much more than that. She's a heritage preserver. She's our guest in this edition of 10 Questions. Good day. Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Andy. Thank you for delivering that speech, so to speak.
Well, that was, so that was a letter that you wrote that was published in the Newsday a couple of months ago.
Yes, I would like us to discuss this morning the carnival part of our cultural heritage.
Right, well, that's why we bring you on, because so
we've just come out of what seemed to be carnival, and I want to be bold enough to define it in a way that is not commonplace. How we hear carnival.
Right, certainly.
Carnival is symbolism, it's emotion, it's politics, it's representation of something profound. Trinidad and Tobago bridges a beautiful lot of complexities to form a culture of art, which has been made hybrid and creolized to form this spectacle of music and performance. Some describe Calypso as a cauldron of intense emotions, which means it can be a mixture of all that can be artificial and artificially inclusive as well as exclusive. But let me go to the root and why we must go back to cultural heritage, respect, honor. Carnival is a strategy behind resistance. And it's really rooted in religious, spiritual beliefs diffused from mainly African religious traditions, such as Igbo, Orisha, Yoruba, Congos, and belonging to a family of celebratory practices. The fundamental nature of Carnival, according to Professor Hollis, Liverpool, ORTT, is that it defines freedom for Africans and configures them, and configures for them the rituals of power and rebellion.
That's the title of his book, yes.
Why do we have a festival, something that's full of light and life, connected with power and rebellion? We have it because the Europeans developed 5 systems to make us a nation. The first was genocide, coming into the territory of our First Nations, First Peoples, and uprooting them. The second was servitude, when they thought, well, the Amerindians can't work, or the Amerindians are resisting our power. They brought in their poor whites from the different cities of Europe. And then they came with the greatest, strongest one, the Africans, our African ancestors, which we call slavery. And this lasted very long. They then followed it up with indentureship, which could be termed as an moderation of the other fear systems, but it gave a little bit of freedom to the people who came on board. And finally, we have colonialism, which we could define as the descendants of all those groups. So it is our ancestors from whom the power to produce Carnival historicize Carnival in experiences of brutality, loss of religion, conquests, enslavement, and its modification, to define themselves in resistance, resilience, are what I would call bold-facedness. Carnival reflected our ancestors' tenacity to grasp cultural power. According to Peter Minshall in 2019, he said, and I quote, "Mass is more important than any painting on a wall. It takes thousands of humans' moments to bring it and put it together and to play it on the road. Mass is art." Therefore, Carnival is not just jump up and wave. And when I said emotion, I think I have to recall that several people feel differently and display a sense of loyalty to Carnival. It was interesting. I must have played Mass for 30-something times, that band leaders would say, come at a certain time, and we would reach there, and yet still move 2 hours after, and nobody was really fretting. It was taken for granted that we would be there for those 2 hours, particularly those of us who had been repeatedly playing Mass. The emotion of getting a costume, of going into a Mass camp for a couple months before, being there until midnight to see your costume or costumes come out. We didn't have Google and search engines to look up a costume. We were a part of making ourselves the costume. So, and that's where I talk about it as emotion. But coming on to what has happened recently, a friend of mine shared with me how he felt because he played Mass for years, section leader, band leader, sailor. Sailor is a bad Mass, you do what you like. And then because of COVID, and because many people did not want to get vaccinated, we had to have, quote unquote, a taste of Carnival. So I'll stop there, Andy, for now.
Well, that's a good juncture, because that's what I wanted to get to see to what extent, how you assess this taste of Carnival, because my tag for the discussion is Taste of Carnival 2022. Is it sour? Is it sweet? What was it, in your view?
How would I?
Yes. How would you respond to what we saw as this taste of Carnival? Did it leave a sour taste in your mouth? Was it sweet, or what was it? Is it brackish?
Well, personally, it brought back memories of what was. The movement from, let us say, a month or two before Carnival to Carnival Sunday night. Those emotions, those waiting for winners, backing bands, being able to walk around and check out XYZ, check out different steel orchestras, keep your loyalty for one, all of that is emotional. But I want to bring it right back. I want to take it from the present to the past.
Go ahead.
What the ancestors did in Carnival was not to glorify their pain, but to objectify it. This is what I am. This is what you think I am, but I'm not that. And playing Mass then, as we go into the current time, is a transformation that you made, which the ancestors made in their what is now called traditional Mass. So that the freedom that many people had over Carnival time was lost in just a taste, because the taste was organized, put in the system, and stuff like that. There wasn't that sense of freedom. The road make to walk on Carnival Day. Which told you that. That is a line that tells you, do what you like. Jump up, wave, whatever.
All right.
Is that right? You understand what I mean? And by the same token, it brought sentimentality, because I looked at Pan on television, where normally I would be in the stand.
All right, I want to ask you to hold the point there. We need to take a break, and so we're coming back. Let's hold that point there. We come back to that when we get back.
Catch the playoffs and the finals of the Dream 11 cricket tournament on Friday from 11 a.m. only on WESN Content Capital, your home for cricket.
Gift giving during a lockdown can still be hassle-free with a gift from FanZone with delivery options available nationwide. Visit and browse our Facebook and Instagram pages for all your official licensed merchandise and apparel and have it delivered to your door. Find us on Facebook and Instagram. FanZone, we've got you covered.
Is it politics? What is it? Is it that nobody cares about sports?
The kind of support that sport used to get in the past is no longer here.
The thing is, taking a knee doesn't mean that that's the only thing you're doing on it.
Right.
Taking a knee along with other stuff.
Samantha, what are you looking forward to when you return home to Trinidad and Tobago after winning the title?
Thank you very much for speaking it into existence.
Is it no pressure on Nicholas Ball?
It makes me more motivated to work hard and to go out there and rep the white and black.
Why are we sending a team to the Winter Olympics?
There are a number of Trinbagonians who are in the diaspora and have grown up in winter sport. It's an opportunity that the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee will not close the door on.
I also believe in the players that we have. Once you can motivate the players, you can get the best out of them.
Welcome back to the program. This is 10 Questions. Our guest is Dr. Yvonne Bob Smith, a librarian and educator, and what I call a cultural retentionist, a heritage person, looking back on the Taste of Carnival 2022. So you said you had a look at some of the kings and queens, those competitions, and you looked at the steel band. You said you missed the jumping and the roads and so on. What else sort of caught your interest and caused you to be thinking at this Taste of Carnival 2022?
Well, as I said before, it is memories. It's good to have a touch of it. That's fine. However, I would hope that it is not, this taste thing doesn't get over-modernized because it is a kind of modernization of what is the ritual, the tradition. And with that, I want to go back to the points I'm making about cultural heritage. The masking tradition was strongly powerful. The British enacted laws to curb the exuberance. Yes, we're talking about the 19th century. To curb the exuberance of masks. Jeff Henry, Hollis Liverpool, Max Harris, Errol Hill, and all those people attest to that. So that if you had something like that, that meant a lot to people who wanted to carry on the tradition, and it was not a wrong, something has been taken away. Let me jump straight into a quote of a Black Indian.
Yes.
To amplify my point. And he said, Boise is his familiar name. Black Indian is not a mass, it's a tradition. First, you have to understand the tradition. It's a mixture between the slaves and those native to this land, the Amerindians. We are the product, the children of both parties. He said that, and I end quote, to Maria Nunes in 2018. I think I also remember hearing him say, you could have the carnival in Port of Spain, but we will do our thing in Parliament. Okay? So it puts me now to explain why I'm for this all-inclusive music museum. Because what happens to those people who want to keep the traditions going? And mind you, if I may exemplify from Parliament, a lot of young people are getting into mass that used to be looked at as the privilege of the older people, young people and women, young girls, young women. So if we are keeping a tradition in that corner, people are keeping a tradition in one corner, what happens to the rest of it? How does it impact? Where does the real meaning, the total meaning of carnival go? Why should we pick out this group to put on stage and leave out other groups? Because of the very nature of carnival is to venerate those struggles that our ancestors had to go through. I was thinking very strongly about how Ras Shorty Eye would have felt if he were alive and viewed what Marshall did just recently.
Are you going to India?
You see? Because our country is to be identified as links and fusions. It's not separate. And culture is what brings those links and fusions together. Because if even you don't eat roti and you go somewhere and you smell it, you say, who the hell cooking this? If even you, whatever it is in another ethnic group, sometime down the line, we get to be a part of it. And that is what our country is like. And it's exemplary, right? Because we don't even speak 10 languages. We speak a Trini language. Okay?
Yes.
So separation is out of order. Picking and choosing is out of order. You got to be very careful. If you want to keep that tradition going, if you respect why, it's the why that I'm concerned about. To let the people who dominated us, subjugated us, know we have thought to. We have culture. We have something we can belong to. We have a sense of identity. And we don't pick up everything all over the place. It's okay in time to walk into another person's territory, shake that person's hand and say, hey, we're doing soca. Hey, we're doing chutney soca. And so it goes on. And I don't believe that I'd ever be around to see all the linkages that can be made of the society, of the identity of the society.
Well, I want to pose.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, but yes, certainly. I wanted to pose a question, but I think the time will only permit for me to pose it, and we'll have to pick it up on the other side at another time. The issue about one of the national laments from a lot of people is that we are a people with a carnival mentality. And when you hear that, you think of the positive rather than the negative side of it, because we are assailed with that, but there's a lot in that is positive, having this carnival mentality. But I'm saying that that's where we have to adjourn. because our time is up, but that is, we will come back when we come back to talk about this and our national identity some more. That question about lamenting the fact that we have a carnival mentality. But that would do it for us for this edition of the program. This has been 10 Questions. My guest, Dr. Yvonne Bob-Smith. I'm Andy Johnson. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.